So today we'll discuss runtime environment. That is another important module in compiler design. So what is runtime environment? So before that, just I want to summarize that till now, which phases we have covered. We have phases lexical analysis, syntax analysis, type checking, that is called semantic analysis, then intermediate code generation, code optimization, and code regeneration. So basically, this runtime environment is a last phase, not last phase. It is a part of code generation, you can say, which used to or which handles the allocation and deallocation of memory space while a code is running or while a code is going to be run. Let's start. The allocation and deallocation of data objects is managed by runtime environment package. That means I have already told you. So when a program is going to be run or when a program is running, at that time, how the data or how the different variables will be allocated or will be deallocated in memory space, that is handled by runtime environment. And in this case, basically we'll focus on a function or procedure, how a function or procedure is loaded into memory, which parts of the functions are loaded into memory, and how is it handled, how it is handled by runtime environment. And before that, one important point, look at this word activation. Very, very important. Activation. What is activation? Execution of a procedure is referred to as activation. Execution of a procedure, or you can say execution of a function. Here, procedure or function, you can use interchangeable. So execution of a procedure or function is referred to as activation. So say you have written 5 functions. Okay. So first you will execute function 1, then you will execute function 2, function 3, function 4, and function 5. In this way, when you are executing on a function, that is called activation of the function. So activation means just execution of a function. Okay. Now, source language, say you have written a C program and now you are going to compile the C code by using C compiler. So for the source, in this case, your source language is C language. Okay. So for the source language, what are the different points that have to be remembered regarding source language? Okay. So first, procedure. Procedure or function. We know what is function or procedure. So when I call a function, that means we are going to execute or perform a specific task. A function basically performs a specific task for a given algorithm. Now, in function, there are 2 types of parameters. We know formal parameters and actual parameters. So first one, formal parameters. So look at this function, this function. Read array, say is an example. Read array is a function name, and there are 2 parameters, that is int a20 is an array, and int nn is integer parameter, integer variable. So these 2 parameters a20 and n, these are formal parameters. Why formal? Because here we have defined the function, but what will be the exact value of a20 or what will be the exact value of n, it will be decided during function call, right? So we can say during function declaration or function definition, when we write in this way, then these type of parameters are called formal parameters because their values are not yet decided. Now say, now here you have called this array function, this read array function inside main function. Look at the parameters. You have called x and you have called by m. That means here x will be copied into a20 and m will be copied into n. So here value of x and value of m should be specific, and these values are taken say by the user during runtime, or you may fix this value whatever. But here x and m are specific values. So we can say here x and m, these two values, x and m, those two values are called actual parameters, because these values will be copied into A20 and n, and these values will be used during execution of the function read n. Okay. So in this way, for any function or for any procedure, there are two types of parameters: formal parameters and actual parameters. Next, very important point, activation tree. Activation tree. What is activation tree? I've told you already what is activation. Activation means execution of a procedure or execution of a function is called activation. Then what is activation tree? Say in your program you have defined 5 functions: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So first you will call your main function, then main function will call function 1, then function 2, function 3, function 4, function 5. Now how these functions will be called? That is a sequence of calling. It may be first main, of course first main will be called, then main function may call function 1, then function 1 may call function 3 first before function 2, then function 3 may call function 2. So what will be the exact sequence of calling of these functions? You can show this sequence with the help of activation tree. The activation tree, basically it's a tree format, tree-like structure that depicts, that shows how different functions in a given source program are being executed. What are their sequence of execution? So we'll further demonstrate this with an example. So our example is this example, a quick short function. We all know what is quick-short function. So look at the function. So first S is a main function, main, which calls first function R, where R is a function that is used to read the array for which you are going to apply quick-short. Okay, so read function basically reads the array. Then you are calling function quick-short function Q19, where 1 and 9 are the limits. Say 1 is the lowest limit and 9 is the highest limit with function. So Q is a function, quick-short function with parameters 1 and 9. You can say here 1 and 9 are actual parameters, right? Then we know in quick-short, inside quick-short function, we call 3 functions. First function is partition function, we know P, and then we call 2 quick-short function recursively. I think you all know it. So inside quick-short function, we further call 3 functions. First function is partition function. This function divides the array into 2 parts, in 2 sections. Okay, and then for each of the 2 sections, we recursively call the 2 quick-short function again. For example, here when we call quick-short function Q19, then say after calling Q19, we say 4 is the pivot element. Here we let 4 is a pivot element. So first we apply partition and go to the partition function. This function finds what will be the 2 sections depending on the pivot element. And since 4 is pivot element, then up to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This function is a quick-short function. It will be applied for the section 1, 2, 3. And for the another section, that is from 5 to 9, because 4 is pivot element, so except 4. So from 5 to 9 is another quick-short function that will be called for the another section. So Q13, it is Q1 to 3, it is called for the left section, and then 4 is a pivot element. Then Q5 to 9, it is called for the right section. Okay. In this way, inside quick-short function Q19, 3 functions are called. First partition, then recursively 2 quick-short functions. So we all know this structure. Now I want to just tell you that here there are so many function calls. They may be recursive, but there are so many functions calls. For example, when we will be executing this part q13, then for this q13 quickshot function again we will call three functions. First will be partition for this function, then another quickshot for left side for this function, and q this another quickshot function. These are for the right section for this function. That is, I want to say that for each of the quickshot function we'll call three functions, one partition and two quickshot. So in this way, when we'll be calling, for example, this quickshot function, then another there is a partition and two quickshot functions. So I have shown you just one example here. Now look at the structure. Here there are so many function calls. Now say at any point of time, say we are over here, we are over here, we are over here. That means up to this point, which functions have been executed completely? We can say up to this, S has been called, okay, R has been called and executed successfully. Then it has been called, but it has not yet been completed, because it when you call this function, then this function is called, then this function is called. When you call this function, then this function is called. Under this function is called, then you call this function. So we are currently at this position. So we can say this function has not yet completed. Why? Because for this function, although we have completed this part, although you are in this part, but till you have to execute this part. This part is left for this function. Okay. So when we are over here at this point, then what will be the content of stack by which you are keeping track of different function calling? So this is the stack. So look at the stack. So first we call S, already I have told you. Then you call R, already executed. Dotted line means called and executed completely. That is complete. Okay. Then we call, after under S we call Q. We call Q. Under Q we call P. Dotted means it is completed. Then you call Q. Then under Q we call P13. It is completed because dotted line. Then you call Q, this part, it is completed with dotted line. But we are now over here. So this has been just called by this function, but till now not completed. It is running. So if we want to look at the stack when you are executing this function, then inside our stack, this will be your content. So your stack will store S, this one, these two are completed, and this one. That is, stack will contain S, Q19, Q13, and Q23, the functions which have not yet completed or which are running. Those functions will be stored in the stack. And this portion, the dotted line portion, these portions have pushed into the stack, and they have been executed, and then they already popped out from the stack. So dotted line means they have been popped out from the stack. Okay, and this portion is already inside the stack. They're running. Okay. So this type of stack is called control stack. Control stack is a stack that is stored, that is held, or that is implemented at runtime to keep track about the activation. Activation means the running procedure, the running functions. Okay. So till now, is it clear to all of you? Any query you may
Sir,
ask up to
sir,
control stack. हाँ.
सर ये जो यहाँ जो ये कंट्रोल स्टैक में, ठीक है, तो ये Q59 क्यों नहीं यहाँ आया?
Q
Q59 जैसे
नहीं,
यहाँ पे
because Q59 तभी आएगा जब तुम ए वाला पार्ट कंप्लीट करोगे. Because Q59 will come after you will complete Q13. Okay. Oh, when you will complete Q13, that means when you will complete this part, and this part. Okay. That's why Q59 it will come once you will complete this section. Then Q59 will come. That's why in stack, when you are executing this portion, of course Q59 will not come. It will come when you will complete this section. Then Q59 will come. Okay. Any more question?
तो सर ये Q23 जो है इसको कंप्लीट होने के लिए तो Q33, Q20
Yes.
और
When you are at this position, okay, that means just you have called Q23. That is now you are going to call P23. That is now you are going to call the P for these, Q for these, Q for these. So I have shown here that means you have just called this. You have not yet started the P, Q, and for this. Okay, you've just called it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So now, so two important terms you should remember: activation trees, and third one is control stack. Okay. So next, another point. This point always we know scope of declaration. We all know for any variable there are two scope of declaration, that is local variable or it may be non-local or global variable. So there are two types of declaration. So anybody, what is local declaration? Anybody? What is local declaration? What is
Sir,
local?
the variables which we declared inside a function or procedure.
Yes, very good. And what is global?
The outside the function which can be used throughout the
Throughout the
class or
throughout the source code,
program.
right? So yes. So look at just give an example. You all know it. So there's example read array function, where inside the function read array we have declared a variable int I. So int I, it has been declared inside the read array function. That means this variable I cannot be accessed from outside the read array function. So this I will be local variable to this read array function. And any variable that is declared outside the function, outside any function, that variable can be accessed throughout the code. That is, that variable can be accessed by any function in the code. So that variable is called global variable. Okay. So next three terms comes binding of names. Very, very important. Binding of names. What is the meaning of binding of names? So take an example. This example. Say we have declared a variable int x equal to 10. Very, very simple at declaration. Int x equal to 10. So here int is type of the variable, x is name of the variable, and 10 is value of the variable. So when you write this type of statement, that is when we write any initialization of a variable, then what is the implementation part when this code is running? So look at the memory part. This is a memory scenario. Say x is the name of the variable, and this variable will be used to use as the name of the location. And say 4000 is the value of the location or address where this x will be stored, and 10 is the value of the variable 10. Okay, so here two terms: what is environment, what is state. What is environment? Environment is a mapping that maps a name to a storage location. That means when you declare x equal to 10, then x will be mapped into location 4000, right? This variable name to location, this mapping is called environment. That is, mapping from a variable name to memory address is called environment. Okay. Now, once you get the location or your name value of the address, that is here 4000, then you will put the value that is held by X into this location. This mapping is called state. So state means you are mapping or you are putting the value of the variable into the location that is assigned by environment. So these two terms, environment and state, are frequently used when we work with some variables. So environment, it maps variable into location, and state, it maps a variable value into the location. Okay. Or you can say location into variable value. Location into variable value. Okay. So up to this point, if we want to differentiate two things, static notation and dynamic notation. So what parts will be under static notation? Look at first part is definition of procedure. Definition or declaration of any function, that is static part, because we normally declare or define a function inside our code, and that code will be compiled before running. So declaration or definition of any function is called under static part. Then declaration of a name. Say you are declaring function, you are declaring variable. All these declarations are under static part. But when you are running the program, that is, you are running the functions, that is activation of functions. So activation of function means you are under dynamic part. And binding, you know what is binding over here? Binding means you are getting some address, and at runtime you are storing the value inside the address. So that part, this environment and state, these two parts constitute the binding of name, and this binding of name basically it goes under dynamic part. Okay. So these two parts, static and dynamic, you should all be clear idea. Then next part, storage organization. So when a source code or compiled code is done by CPU, then of course that code should be residing at main memory, because CPU access the code from main memory. Then in main memory, what are the sections for the code? Look at the sections. The sections are code, that is your code, actual code, or the main code, or some functions you have written inside the code, inside your source code. Static data. This section especially holds the static variables. Okay, the static variables you have declared inside your program. Static variables. Then stack. This is your stack portion. Stack portion basically holds any local variables you have declared inside your program. Any local variables or any global variables, any variables you have used. And heap. Basically, heap section, it is used to store the variables or to store the any values which are used or which are created at runtime. So heap section basically it is used to keep track of values or variables. Those are used at runtime. And stack section is used to store or variables or data, whatever. Those have been defined or declared up to compile time. So code, static data section, stack, and heap. These four are the basic sections. Those are required to execute any program. So for execution, these are the basic sections which are held by runtime environment. Next, very important section, very important point, activation record. We all know what is activation, right? Activation means when a program is running, that is called activation. What is activation tree? Sequence of execution of functions, that is called activation tree. We have shown an example using Quickshot. Okay, now what is activation record? So three terms: activation, activation tree, activation record. What is activation record? So when you are executing a function, that is at that time you need to keep some record regarding your number of variables, type of variables a function is using, type of global variables a function is using, the return address, the address of the called function, that is the function which function has been called, the address of the calling function, the function which has called the function. So different types of information should be kept, should be stored by the runtime environment. Okay, so this information is stored in a record format that is called activation record. So activation record looks like this. So already you know what is PCB in operating system subject. PCB, what is PCB? Anybody?
Process control block.
Yes, process control block. So what is the use of PCB? PCB holds different information regarding process which is being running, right? So PCB used by operating system. Okay. Similarly, this information, activation record, it is held or it is used by runtime environment that is a part of compiler. So this record, it is similar, we can say, to PCB. Similar like that. So first discuss different parts of activation record. First, what is it? First part is temporaries. What is temporaries? Those arises evaluation in the evaluation of expression. So temporaries basically any local variables, okay, which have been used by the function, during the execution. Or you can say any local expressions, those arises in the evaluation of. Say for example, you are executing x equals to y plus z into 60, this information. Already I have told you this type of information. First, of course, z into 10 will be executed. So I can rewrite the part x equal to y plus z, say, into 60. To execute this expression, of course, first we will execute this part z into 60 because we already know what is 3 address code. So first we will write 3 address code for this part. Then we will say this is the variable a. Then you will perform y plus a, that you will be storing variable x. So you can say a is a variable that is used or that is created at the time of execution of this expression. Okay. So these type of variables which are not local variables but which are created at the time of execution of an expression, that is basically under temporaries. So basically temporaries are not local variables. Temporaries basically are the temporary variables which are created and destroyed during the execution of an expression. And then local variables, local data basically stores the variables which are local variables to a function. Then saved machine status, which what is this? Say function f1 is calling function f2. Okay, so when we are calling function f2. In this case, function f2 is called called function, and function f1 is called calling function. Okay, now when you are calling function f2 from function f1, at that time whatever the portions you have executed till now for function 1, that should be stored inside the stack or inside the memory, such that after completion of function 2, when you will come back to function 1, you can start from that point where the function 1 execution was stopped. Okay, so this type of storing information of the state of function 1 when you are calling function 2. Okay. So this type of storing state of function 1, that is the step up to which function 1 has been executed. This type of storing of state of function 1, it is stored under this section, saved machine status. So saved machine status, this section in activation record stores the information of the state of the calling function. Okay, the function which has called the new function. Such that, so what is the use of this section? Such that after completion of function 2, when we will return back to function 1, then we can get information up to which section function 1 has been completed, such that we can start from that part. So next part is optional access link. It refers to non-local data. That means it refers to global data. So when a function access any global data, or it can access any local data that is created by another function, whatever. That is, when a function access any variable that is not local to that function. Okay. So this type of information is stored in optional access link section. So this section basically holds the variables which are used by the function, but the variables are not declared inside that function. So that variable can be global variable, can be any other local variable inside any other function. In the optional control link, okay, it points to the activation record of the caller. That means, so one thing I should mention, that if you have 5 functions, then during execution you should have 5 activation records. That means for each function you should have an activation record. So say you are executing function 1. That means function 1 must have an activation record, say AR. Now say you have called function 2 from function 1. Then for function 2, a new activation record will be created. So it is AR2 and it was AR1. Now when function 2 is being called, then function 2 must store a pointer to the activation record of function 1, such that when function 2 needs any information regarding its caller, because F1 means caller, when function 2 needs any information regarding its caller, it can easily access from this pointer. So any function or any called function stores a pointer of the activation record of its calling function. So this pointer of the activation record of the calling function is stored in optional control link field. Okay. So next field. Look at the field. Okay. This is used by the calling procedure to supply parameters to the call. So this is actually actual parameter. So already you know what is actual parameter. Basically, actual parameter is the parameter which are passed into the function when you are calling the function. Okay. So when we are calling a function, that is at that time we are creating an activation record for the function. So at that time you must store the actual values of the variables of the formal parameters which will be used by that function. So those actual values or the actual parameters are stored in this field in activation record. The field name is actual parameter. Next, return value. This is used by the call procedure to return to a value to the calling procedure. Okay, this is used by the call procedure to return a value. So say function 1 is our calling function which is calling function 2. So function 2 is called function. Say after execution function 2 returns a value. So returns a value, say value x to function f1, because x in here return value. So this return value that is returned by the called function it is stored under return value field. So return value field is stores the value that is returned by any function. Okay, so basically, so these are the different fields which are stored inside activation record, and these fields are very, very important to keep track of live procedures. Live procedure means the live functions of the activation which are being running. So till now, have you any query? Have you understood this thing? Any query regarding activation record and different section of activation record? You may ask. No query? Have you understood, all of you? Yes, at least say yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So Acha, how much time is left now?
1 minute 19 seconds.
Okay. Okay. So just I'm ending this minute this class. Okay. And just within 1 minute I will start another class. And just you click on our previous link. Okay. Just go previous link, the new class will start. So up to we have discussed activation tree, control stack, activation record. So next we'll show storage allocation. Storage allocation in heap, inside heap. So if it totally is run, because you know I've told you what is heap. Heap stores normally the values, the variables, which are normally used, created at runtime. So let's say let us consider this example. S is the main function which is calling R function. R is the read array. Basically, this function read the array for performing quick shot, and then quick shot function. Say we are at this point. So at this point, say assume that here the quick shot function, it is the different variables or the array size of the array, it has been created using malloc or calloc function in C programming. So it will be dynamic. So in that case, what will be the content of heap? Since there is a something dynamic allocation, so heap content, first S will start. First heap will store S, the main function. Inside main function, S, then S will call R. What is R? R function reads the array. In this case, I told you array is dynamic. So the size of the array, it will be decided at runtime. So R function, it is stored in heap. After that, we'll call Q function. Since the Q function, there is a what will be the limit in this case, whether it will be 1,9 or it will be 1,10 or 1,50. It depends on what will be the size of the array that is taken during R, during calling of R. So the execution of Q also goes under heap, because the size of the number of calls or size of the quick shot function, it is not static, it is dynamic. So this quick shot function, it goes to under heap. And since we are now at this position, that is we are now executing this function. So if we look at heap will store this function where this portion already completed. Okay, but this portion will not be stored in heap. But here we have shown that since we want to demonstrate that heap will store R, but after execution of R, heap will delete R. So when we are executing this portion, at that time R will be deleted. Fine. But we have shown here to demonstrate that initially R will be there. Okay. So just remember that when we will be at this point, then heap, the structure of heap will go in this way. First S, then R, and then Q. In this way, heap will grow gradually. Next, parameter passing. So this thing already, I think already have done. Different types of parameter passing. We know call by value, call by reference. I think all of you know it. Do you know it? What is call by value and call by reference, or call by address? Please give me a response. All
Yes,
of you know
sir.
it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now tell me, what is call by value? Tell me then. What is call by value? Anybody? Please tell me. Anybody? What is call by value? The answer is there already. You can take help from here. What is call by value? No answer? Hello?
Sir, in call by value, we pass the actual parameter, and in a call by reference, we pass the address of the actual parameter.
Yes, right. So, so say, since we are dealing with runtime environment, so runtime environment means, of course, we frequently call functions, or already you have seen in activation record, activation tree. That means we have to deal with function calling or parameter passing. Okay. So there are two types of parameter passing: call by value and call by reference, or call by address. What is call by value? Basically, when we call a function, at that time we directly pass the value inside the function. We don't pass the address of the value. We directly pass the value. So take an example. Say main function, then main function call another function int fun int. So this is a function declaration. So fun is a function name, int is a type of argument it will take, and int is a type of return type. When after some lines, say we are calling this function. So x equal to fun a. Why x equal to? Because fun a returns some values which is stored in variable x. Now when you are calling fun, then look at the parameter. The parameter is inside a. Say we have taken a from user at runtime. So value of a will be passed to n. What is n? Look at the function. It is a function definition. So when we define the function fun, in bracket we have written int n. That is during function call, the value of a will be copied into value of n. So you can say here n is formal parameter and a is actual parameter, right? And look at the function calling. We are directly passing a. We are not passing address of a, right? So in this way, when we pass directly the value of a variable, that is called call by value. It is very simple. Call by value. Next, look at the second example. Call by reference. Say main function. Inside main function, I have declared a function void fun in star, where fun is a function name. Acha, look at the parameter pass. It is in star. In star means it will take an integer pointer in star. If you write float star, then it will take a float pointer. Okay. And look at the passing part, parameter passing part, fun ampersand a. And look at the parameter passing part in this case, in previous case, it was fun a. So when you are writing fun a, that is you are simply passing value of a. But when you are writing ampersand a, that means, so when you are writing ampersand of a, that means you are passing address of variable a. Okay, so now look at the function definition part. In function definition part, here we have written fun int star n, but in previous case we have written fun int n. So look at the difference. So when we pass simple variable, simple value, then we write simple int n, float n, like in this way. Don't put star. But when we pass address, then in the argument part, just write star, int star n, float star n, depending on the type of the variable. So when you will write ampersand a in function calling, then you will write star n, in star n, it may be star n, star x, whatever, but variable name is not important, but star is important, mind it. So when you will write ampersand a or ampersand x, whatever, that is when you will put ampersand during function call, then you will must put star at the function definition. That is my point. Is it clear? So when we will call a function by putting ampersand at the argument, then you will must write star at function definition. So that is here you are passing address rather than you are passing value. This is called call by reference. Okay, is it clear to all of you? Call by reference, call by value.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this part is almost clear. So before this, I will just clear one thing. Look at R value and L value, two important points. What is R value? What is L value? Okay. The value of an expression is called its R value. For example, you have written x equal to a plus b into c, where the final result of a plus b into c will be stored in x. So x is called sorry, here this a plus b into c, that will be R value. That is the value or the expression that will be generated after evaluating the expression, and that is on the right hand side of your expression. So this a plus b into c will be R value, and after generating this value a plus b into c, that is R value, you will store this R value into a memory location that is defined, or that is denoted on the left hand side of your expression. So finally the R value or the final result of an expression of the right hand side of your expression, that R value will be finally stored in a memory location. Here it is denoted by x. Basically x is the variable, but finally x maps to a location. So here x is called L value. Why L value? Left value of the expression. So in this way, for another example, say you have written a equals to b plus c. Here b plus c, this is the result of the right hand side. So this result b plus c will call R value, and when you will get the R value, you will store the R value in variable a, that will be stored in memory location, say memory location 2000. Okay. So in that case, this variable a or 2000, it will be called L value, that is on the left hand side of your expression. So in simple way, you can think R value normally the result that is obtained on right hand side of an expression, and L value is the variable, is the memory location where the R value is stored finally, and the L value is normally denoted on the left hand side of an expression. Okay, is it clear? L and R value clear, all of you? Okay, So up to this, basically, this is the overall section of runtime environment. So at last, we again summarize the whole thing. In runtime environment, we will focus on what is runtime environment, what is the usefulness of runtime environment, what is activation trees, what is activation record, what is control stack, what are different sections of storage allocation during program execution, right? Code section, stack, heap, different fields of activation record, very important. Then different types of function calls, that is call by value and call by reference or call by address. Mainly focus on these two, call by value and call by reference or call by address. And lastly, two important definition, what is L value and what is R value for an expression. And lastly, we'll again summarize this point that runtime environment is very, very useful. That is used to allocate and deallocate variables, functions during execution of a program. That's why mainly this module deals with dynamic or runtime execution, runtime allocation, or the execution environment of a program. Okay, so any query you may ask now. This is up to this runtime environment. No query. Okay, so next class one section is remaining. Next class will overall all the phases are over. Okay, so lexical, syntax, semantic, intermediate code generation, code optimization, code generation, and runtime environment. So all the phases have been covered. So next class we'll discuss one point, that is a small part in lexical part. Already you have done in your earlier classes, that is in Autona classes. So we'll discuss how to convert an NF into DFA. So NFA, so you all know what is NFA, you all know what is DFA, and you all know NFA and DFA and regular expressions, these are used in lexical analysis phase, right? To generate token. So NFA, DFA, regular expressions, these all are used in lexical analysis phase to generate token. So next class we will discuss how to convert NFA to DFA and how to generate, how to design DFA for a given regular expression. Because until unless you can't generate DFA, you can't generate token. So this is up to you. This is today's class. Thank you, all of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So this tutorial I will share you by tomorrow. Okay. Thank you.